Hey, welcome to our home, just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Hey, today's video is going to be a little something different. I like to buy and restore and sometimes resell, sometimes keep and use vintage cast iron. Well, this weekend I picked up quite a load of it and it's got to get done, so I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. In a nutshell, what I do is I clean it in my self-cleaning oven using the self-cleaning oven cycle, and then I season it on from there. So let's bring you along for the ride, but a couple of words of caution. This technique that I use pretty much takes all day. I think one cycle of the self-cleaning oven is 3 hours plus about an hour to cool down from whatever it is, 500-700 degrees back down to where you can handle the stuff. And the second thing is, depending upon how much stuff you're cleaning and how dirty it is, you're going to get kind of an acrid smoke in the house. I've got the blower going on the hood next to me, but still you might want to time it so that you're doing this during a weather that allows you to open up the windows, the doors, or whatever. But all that stuff being said, come on, let's go. Let's take a look at what we've got and let's get it cleaned up. And here are our victims. I picked up this pile of cast iron along with a couple of other pieces this weekend for $35 from a lady who was struggling with having to consolidate 3 different homes. The first one is, I believe, a 15-inch skillet. It's not in bad shape. You can see the inside of it is rusted, but you know, that's a really pretty easy fix. So we'll put this one aside and we'll restore this. And I've got you focused in on this piece because it pretty well shows what we're talking about. You can see all this crust here. This is spilled oil and grease that was left on. Many people subscribe to the theory that you never wash cast iron. And in my opinion, just like everything else, there's a little truth to it and a little fallacy. But you can see this stuff is just baked on and it's disgusting. And here's the inside of this pot. It's rusty as well. Here's a little larger skillet. You can see it's crusted just like the other one was. It's rusty. It's disgusting. And then we have this one here, which is pretty badly rusted. Real quickly, identifying cast iron, vintage cast iron pots can be challenging. Some of it's not marked. Obviously, the 2 brands people look for are Wagner and Griswold. Those are normally marked. If you look online, you can find some pretty good discussions about identifying unmarked cast iron. For example, if you can see right here, there's the number 8 and it says 10 1/4 inches. Then there's no writing up here that we can see. We'll see what happens after we clean it. But that font tells me that this is a Wagner pot. It may be unmarked Wagner, which was sold at places like Sears and Montgomery Ward's under different names. But that font was used exclusively by Wagner. When you turn a cast iron pot over, this ring here was designed to seal the burner on wood burning stoves. And if you have notches every 60 degrees, like one here, one here, one here, there'll be a little notch in that. That would be an unmarked lodge, an early unmarked lodge. Lodge still makes cast iron. I believe their factory is up in Tennessee, and good for them for still being in the U.S. But the new lodges don't command the value from collectors that a Griswold or a Wagner or a Birmingham stove and range pan will. So the marked lodges, they're great to cook on. I don't have any problems with them, but if you're going to be buying them as collector pieces, you might want to stay away from those and stick with these older vintage pans. Okay, this is what we're going to be working on. Let me get you set up and I'll show you what we're going to do. Now, as I said before, what I'm going to do with this is to put this in the oven on the self-clean cycle. The oven's ready to be cleaned anyways, so I'm not wasting any energy in doing it this way. But if you don't have a self-cleaning oven, you're not going to obviously be able to do this unless you have access to one. But I have found this to be the easiest way of doing it. It works very, very well, and the only cleanup you're going to deal with is vacuuming ash out of the bottom of the oven when you're done. So let me get these loaded in. Hopefully these will all fit in here in one load. The skillet is gigantic. All right, we did it. And we're in the self-cleaning mode right now. It's a 3-hour cycle. We've got to give it the 3 hours to run its course, and then of course we've got to give it some time to cool off. So I would expect this entire process, this first stage, probably 4 hours. I'll be back when it's over. Okay, it's 5 after 5. We started this project at 12:30. So it's been 4.5 hours to get to this point where I can at least open the door. And our project pans are in there. You can see the ash that has taken the place of that burned on grease. And looking inside the oven, you can see the ash that has come off these pots. Now the next step for us is to let these pots cool down to the point that I can scrub them clean with dish soap and water, and then prepare them for seasoning. Cast iron is obviously can be brittle, and if you heat it and subject it to cold, it can crack. So we have to let this cool down a little bit before we can conduct the next step. Okay, one of the ways you can test to see if they're ready to pull out that I found is take a little bit of water, flick it on there. If it's not steaming off like a hot iron, you can normally grab them and pull them out. And you can see that's just powder now. Look at it, just falling off. All right, let me show you the next step. The next thing I do is take a scrubby pad with some soap on it and scrub the cast iron. What I'm doing here is removing any of the oxidation, any of the rust that's on the cast iron. See how that's come out? We got to get this dried off pretty quickly. Now what you want to do is get this dried off pretty quickly, get it right on the stove, and I'll show you why. Okay, what I'm doing right now is heating it on the stove to get any of that water out of there because I don't want it to flash rust. And while it's heating up, I'm going to take some Crisco on a paper towel and just put a light coat of oil on it. This is just to protect it from rusting until we get it seasoned. Okay, there it is with a light coat of oil on it. It'll sit there for just a little while until I get the rest of the pans cleaned and oiled, and then I'll show you the next step. I'll bring you back. Okay, all of our pans have been cleaned. They've been oiled with Crisco, and now they're ready to go back into the oven for 1 hour at 400 degrees. We'll probably do that twice, and between each time, we'll put another light coat of oil on it. This is the seasoning process, and as I understand it, it's just a chemical reaction that occurs under heat between the cast iron and the fat that you're putting on there. So you want to make sure you don't have too much oil or too much grease on your pot because it just doesn't look good. It'll drip all over. So I'll wipe each of these off. So there's a very thin coat of oil Back in they go, 400 degrees. I'll bring you back in an hour. Okay, we've pulled the pans out after their first seasoning. You can see how nice they've come out. My wife has indicated that she doesn't want to keep any of these, so as a result, they're ready for sale. If I was going to keep these, I probably would repeat this seasoning process at least 2 more times. However, there's another way that you can quickly season these, and I'll show that to you right now. We have the very largest of the skillets covered in a light coat of oil, and it's on heat right now. And what I'm going to do is bring this up to heat until the shortening just begins to smoke. Then I'll turn the heat off. And that's actually a way that you can continue to season these pans, spot season them as you use them. In other words, if you cook a hamburger in them and you wipe it out and you think it needs more seasoning, just put a light coat of your Crisco or your lard or whatever oil you choose, put it back on the burner, fire up the heat. As soon as it starts to smoke, which it's starting right now, turn it off and leave it be. And again, just like before, you want to keep the coat of oil very thin so it doesn't puddle. Just like so. Let me show you what this looks like. And you remember what that pan looked like when we started. All right, I'm going to finish up with the rest of these and I will bring you back. Well, it's 8 o'clock at night. It's been a long process. Not a lot of work, just a lot of time. But you can see how nice all these pans have come out compared to the way they were when we started. And all 4 of them are ready for sale. And they're going to look great. And the new owners can continue the seasoning process as they see fit. And as I said before, it seems everybody has their own way of doing this. Well, hey, thanks for watching. I hope you found the video to be valuable. This technique that I use works for me. Like I said 1,000 times in this video, everybody's got a different technique. Whatever works for you is what you should use. Well, anyways, from our kitchen just outside Kennesaw, best regards, thanks for watching. Take good care, and remember, it's just cast iron, heat, and some oily stuff. I kill myself. Thanks, we'll see you next video. Bye.